Good afternoon. Welcome to Nar Shalom in Jerusalem. And we are in our daily series with Rabbi Nachman on Patreon. And look for us over there. And here on YouTube, there's probably, I don't know, 7, 8, 900 classes. You can catch any subject you're looking for. But today we're going to deal with healing in a Hasidic, Kabbalistic perspective. Every man needs to heal his soul. In other words, immediately you see from that sentence, Rabbi Nachman is putting the healing into our responsibility basket and not just leaving it up to doctors and pharmacologists. What does it mean to heal our soul? To lift the soul to its root. Now, where's the soul rooted? Well, in heaven, in big, broad, vague terms. Heaven. We're all souls that came from heaven. We entered bodies. We live out our term here, and then we leave. So illness is oftentimes, most of the time, I have to say, in a Jewish Kabbalistic perspective, there's a cutoff between the body and the soul somewhere. And the map of the body-soul partnership is the 613 positive and negative commands, which Rabbi Nachman calls advices. So he softens them for our generation. We're kind of oversensitive folks. We can't handle the word of commandment anymore. But advice I like, that gives me a chance to have an operation in the system. But either way, the map is the map, and the light is the healing, and the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, the infinite God, who contracts himself into the minute places in the universe, like atoms and molecules, and probably quarks too. Well, he's also at the level of healing our bodies. So we have to return our soul to its root, which is its portal to the infinite. If we enter the infinite completely, we won't come back. We can touch it, we can receive it, and get a nice little jolt of it. You want to call it a high in modern terms, you can call it expanded consciousness, Mochim de Gadlut. We did a class about that recently. But either way, the actual operation is the same. We need to get at the highest peak of our soul when we are connected to Hashem Yitbarach. And okay, so you say, well, why can't I just be healed by doing the mitzvot? And ultimately, you can. Rabbi Nachman says that you can be healed by bread and water. You can be healed by the blessing of a tzaddik. You can be healed by a special herb. You can be healed by, an attitude change. Because something is closed that needs to be opened, and the tzaddik's job is to find that place that's closed. And oftentimes it's just in a mitzvah. The Lubavitch Rebbe healed a lot of people by telling them to get numazizut, check their diet, check their kashrut, check the basics of Judaism, and they found blessing and healing in that. So all of those things are in the gedder of elevating our soul to its root, but on a regular basis, where does the blessing begin? And this idea is mityagea, that he struggles and works hard, putting every, see how my face is getting tight, my hand is clenching, it's like it's like going to the gym, but it's the verbal gym, right? You're going to work your mouth and your heart and your soul in Torah, putting all your being into your learning, putting all your being into the saying of the words, at the level of understanding, the feeling of the words, the experiences of their images, whatever the words painting, there's a lot of mitzvot that have an image behind them, like when you pray, we face to Jerusalem. Well, you don't have to just turn to Jerusalem. You can be at the steps of the Beit HaMikdash in your mind. You can be on the altar in your mind. You can be at the grave of any tzaddik that you identify or connect to in your mind. And so that's part of the mental work. The emotional work is to really, really, really be focused with our heart on what we're saying. And the words have to be absolutely true. And then there's the physical level of saying the words that we need to be said, not just mumbling and whispering. Did you get that prayer? You couldn't quite hear that, could you? Well, God, of course God gets our prayers, but that doesn't fix the problem, because our words are carriers of the light. And when we say them, we express them through us, they drag their light with them. But if I mumble my prayers and I keep mumbling my prayers and I don't really get the words out, then how powerful are those prayers going to be? How much reverberation is there going to be of that light that's flowing through us from infinite into the world, and then hopefully back to his ear and his heart, and God's going to answer, boom, fix him. Send him a miracle. This guy needs a miracle. This woman needs a miracle. It happens that way. But the prayer has to come with all the components bound together. And that's one of the ideas of dveikut, of attachment to God. Now, it really goes on and tells us about the two types of dinim, right? The dinim of judgment of holiness and the judgment of unholiness. And those two, of course, are, well, what you want and what you don't want. Holy judgment means God never takes away your power of prayer. Unholy judgment means it's coming from a place of needing to repair or remove negative forces from us. So the negative forces are removed by the light. So by learning Torah with strength and power, automatically, the light of the Torah pushes off the negative forces. And if those negative forces are connected with some part of your body and it causing problems, okay, you look, if you smoke 20 packs, 20 cigarettes a day for 20 years, it's kind of a little bit pushing the issue to think God's going to save you by one prayer about to clean your lungs. But it doesn't mean you can't turn around on the highway and head in the right direction. And in 20 more years, you might have beautiful lungs. So the healing is not just light miracle level activity. It's also just a change in choice, a change in my attitude about smoking, let's say, or about eating too much, or about whatever things that we do that hurt us. And the Rambam, of course, in the Yad HaZakat teaches us that the main illnesses in the world are all coming from the stomach. And of course the stomach, well, we know what the stomach has to deal with every day, the import and the export of whatever we're consuming, and that is where most of our healing needs to be. Okay. And we learned also this idea of the hitrahakut haratet karvut, that the main getting close to Hashem is first being pushed away. That's another central idea to this Torah that we've worked on already. And I'm just scanning through what we've learned already, because really these Torahs are built like a building, floor upon floor upon floor, and you can't just get on the elevator and jump to the top floor usually, unless it's one of these super high-speed elevators. They got to go through all the levels, right? So we want to keep the levels in mind, because the Torah is designed that way, to take us through these levels of healing. Okay. So we come up to where we are holding now in this progression is the Nimsa Yitzhak Hu Bechina Dina Kedisha. The idea that Yitzhak Avinu, he's the idea of the din, but it's coming from holiness. And where do we see that? Well, the ultimate level, that sacrifice that Yitzhak has, was the life looked as crazily terrible as it could be when your dad's going to take you up on an altar, because he's a prophet, and he tells you, son, Hashem says that I have to take you on an altar. Well, Yitzhak was with the story, and Yitzhak accepted that story. And so that's the holy din, when you can take on the judgment, the power of constriction, the power of small-mindedness, to say, I'm not going to fold because of this. I'm not going to give up because of this. I'm not going to stop serving Hashem because, somebody yelled at me, made fun of you because you're a religious Jew, or because you're a Jew, or because you believe in God. I mean, nowadays, people are, the amount of lashon hara against religion and God and the Torah and the Orthodox people and it's just outrageous, because it's just spread. It's a global anti-Semitism now. Anyways, but there's also a lot of good people and people that support Jews and Judaism, and so we're not complaining over here, because we're going to do what we have to do, and that's what we're doing right now, is learning Torah. And the Rebbe is teaching us to learn Torah with strength, It's going to pull the light out of heaven. It's going to heal you. I mean, there are times where you sit and you learn and you start sweating and your clothes feel sticky like you just ran a mile. And, at the end you're like exhausted. But it's such a peaceful rest. It's such a peaceful pause after really putting exertion in your learning. And it's hard to do alone, but when you're in a yeshiva with holy people like this, and you're people that know these ideas and live these ideas, then it makes it much easier. Okay. Now, Hamtaka the din shel Yitzhak, this idea of Yitzhak sweetening the din because he accepted the din. See, the minute I put up a block to din, I deny, I put up a stonewalling, we call it in the therapy room. And anytime I use those kind of things, well, what I'm actually doing is denying my relationship to this reality. And that does not heal anything. It just allows the negative force to get stronger. And we also had in this Torah the idea of the Dibur Bedea and Dibur Blodea. So Dibur Bedea means you know what you're saying. Your words are well intended and focused. And Dibur Blodea is just saying the words because that's all you know how to do. And those words, the Talmud tells us, are accepted by Hashem. And Hashem is joyous when a person who doesn't even know the language is saying the words, even still, like reading Tehillim in the original when you don't know the Hebrew. That gives God tremendous joy. And he uses those prayers for all kinds of places. Now, and we learned that these types of prayers are actually called the Nachalei Arava, the stream of the willows, and that's the plantings of the Torah and prayer of people who don't even know what they're saying. Every Nachman here says it goes up to heaven and is planted in the holy stream that's bringing life force down into the finite world. And so, if your prayers make it up there, I think that's a pretty good level of prayer. Now, going further forward into some ground we've covered. We also had the idea of tzedakah, shemesh tzedakah b'kanafei marpeh, right? That the sun heals, the wings of the sun heal, and that's called charity. Those four concepts are all bound into that verse. That the sun has wings that heal, and the sun itself is an act of God's charity. We take so much for granted, let's face it. But, one day without the sun, I think we would get some gratitude real fast. And so with this gratitude is also this idea of recognizing God's charity to us. And so the din is the judgment, the idea of judgment comes in the contracted consciousness, and then when the expanded consciousness comes upon you, then you're able to look at it, accept it, and deal with it, and not be overwhelmed, not be flooded, not be despairing when the news comes, because we've already done the work to expand our mind to the acceptance that Hashem is running the world with ultimate, complete, perfect wisdom, and we just need to find the wisdom. When we integrate His wisdom with our consciousness, that's also a healing experience as well. This is the idea. He brings the verse Shemesh Umagen. The shield of the son of Hashem is Elokim. What does that mean? We have two names of God right here in one verse. Shemesh Umagen, Havaya Elokim. That you have the light, and then God provides the umbrella for the light. Right? So the idea of God's light is sometimes too big for people. So God puts it and constricts it into an aspect of judgment, which is what we're calling here the magen, the shield. Just like sunglasses or tinted glass or, a veranda with a cover over it. We can't take the light direct. We can take it broken or filtered. And so that's a concept that we need to also understand, that sometimes, we don't want to make ourselves vulnerable to something that we cannot receive. And as a teacher, we definitely don't want to reveal things to people that they can't handle hearing. And oftentimes the truth itself is too painful for people to hear. So we have to put it in a story, put it in a mashal, put it in an analogy. And that itself, that's called putting a garment on the light of the Torah. And that light on the Torah actually allows the Torah to enter a person and heal him without even knowing it. And so we have all these different ways that we can attract and attach the light of the Torah to us. And then from that point, we're able to lift the soul back to its root. Why? Because the soul is filtered by Torah. We would not be in this world without the Torah. The Torah is the map for every human being. It's the map of the soul. So when the Rebbe talks about attaching our soul to its root, it's talking about its root in the Torah. So that's why you can understand why he says now when you work hard and you exert yourself in the learning, you're actually lifting your soul through the filter of Torah back to the source. So, it is Sfirat Omer, as one of Rabbi Ron, he's telling us here, it's the Sfirat Omer. It is a time of judgment. It is a time of din. We have to be careful to look for, the easy way to get home, and not take things too serious, not take things into heart too much, because in a time of din, there's constriction everywhere. And if you just pay attention, you see there's times of the day, times of the week, and times of the month, and times of the year where people are in good moods, and there's times where they're not. Right now, Sfirat Omer is a time we're building up to the sweetening of all the dinim of this period through Lag BaOmer, through the passing of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Akiva's students, and of course through the sweetening of the Torah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Holy Zohar. So I think we're going to end with that right now, and we're going to go forward again tomorrow, hopefully, with more of Torah Ayin Dalet 74. And we're going to come to the end pretty soon, maybe even tomorrow. But hopefully we'll see some healing. Sometimes the healing is so subtle, we don't even know it's there. And then when it's there, God's working overtime for us. And He's invested in our success. And when you believe that, He's going to show you, God willing. So you should all be healed. And we should all merit to that place where our Torah enters this world through your heart and your mind. God bless you all.